Evening. We're following developing news out of northern Alberta tonight. The regional municipality of Wood Buffalo has declared a state of local emergency as a wildfire moves closer to Fort McMurray.
Our top story this hour, residents in the community of Fort Nelson, British Columbia are being forced to evacuate due to a fast-moving wildfire. People were told last night to leave immediately.
Hearing the stories of people being evacuated in northern British Columbia and Alberta sure brought back memories from last summer. One thing is certain, it is getting hotter and drier around here. Wildfires are getting more unpredictable and the wildfire season is getting longer and more intense. Last year, the summer of 2023, the town where I live was evacuated from August 6th to August 13th. That meant everyone had to pack up their stuff and leave town. Just to clarify, evacuation alert means that you need to be ready to leave on short notice. An evacuation order means you are at risk and must leave the area immediately. Getting evacuated is something that is out of your control. And when things happen that feel like they're out of your control, it can give you a sense of feeling helpless and it can intensify anxiety and uncertainty. So one of the things that you can do to reduce that anxiety and uncertainty is to be prepared as much as possible. So this is some footage from the Mayo airport from last summer. And at this point, we had been on evacuation alert for a couple days, but we didn't know, of course, that the evacuation order would be coming the next day. We were just hanging out by the airport and watching the planes come and go. You can see how smoky it was in the background. You couldn't see any of the hills in the area. The air quality was very poor. At this point, there were 3 major fires surrounding Mayo. They were in all directions. There were several water bombers in action, as well as helicopters. When we got the evacuation alert, we began to prepare immediately. And good thing we did, because not even 2 days later, the evacuation order came. Thank God we had the van. And I would say anyone who is fortunate enough to have a van or an RV or even a camping setup, you're already in a much better off position. Vans or RVs, they give you a safe place that's away from home, but it's still your own space, so you can be comfortable. You're more independent. You're not dependent on the kindness of strangers, although in my experience of evacuation, strangers were amazing, and it was incredible the outpouring of support that people from Mayo had all over the Yukon. At the same time, it's nice to feel not dependent on others if you don't have to be. Having an RV or a van, it also gives you a choice of where you can go. You're not forced to go and stay in some sort of, welcome center or shelter. And you don't feel like you're imposing on others if you're staying with friends. Obviously, I got the van for recreational purposes, to have adventure and to go off and explore. But what I've come to realize in the past couple years is that it also serves a very practical purpose, and I'm very grateful for that. These are uncertain times, and with this uncertainty brings a lot of stress. It is hard to know at the spur of the moment what you need to pack up, what's important to you, what you need to bring. And what I want to do is eliminate that panic. I have made a list with 3 categories. One is a list of things that I'm going to just keep in the van no matter what. So at a moment's notice, I know that they're packed and they're already in there and ready to go. The second list are items that I'm going to keep by the door. So they're not items that I need in my van for the summer, but they are items that in case I get evacuated, that I can grab, and I'll make sure that I won't forget them. I'm talking about the treasured family heirlooms, that sort of thing. But it's not stuff I need to keep in my van. Then my third list is items to be gathered. So they're things that I use on an everyday basis or almost every day. So I can't keep them packed up and ready to go, but I want to make sure that I don't forget those in the event that I am evacuated. I will have all those items written on a list that will be with my by the door stuff, so that when it's time to go, I can go and collect those items and I can make sure I have not forgotten anything important. Okay, here are my lists. I have typed this out on my laptop, so I am reading it off my screen. So a few things just with the van in general is to make sure that the van is always full with diesel, so it's ready to go, and also that the water tank is always full. I also have a supplementary backup water tank. It's just basically like a 5-gallon jerry can, but for water. So making sure that that's always full as well. It's also important to keep the vehicle in a good state of repair. And I actually have an appointment coming up in the next couple of weeks to get an oil change and to do like a general check over to make sure that, you know, there's nothing really pressing and everything's in good working order. My brakes have been a little bit squeaky, so that's one of the things I want them to check. I made this list, obviously consulting online resources, government recommendations. I mean, I didn't invent this in my head. So this is what is recommended that you have with you. So hello. So I've just spent the past hour or so getting together everything on my list and putting it away. And now I'm going to show you where everything is kept. So in this drawer under the seat are some non-perishable goods, enough for 3 days. We've got some Kraft dinner, we got some Jiffy Pop, we've got some ramen, we've got some crackers, we got some soup mixes and some sweets. We've also got some noodles. Over in this cupboard here, which is kind of a underutilized space at the moment, that green shopping bag at the bottom also has a bunch of dry goods, canned goods, baked beans, black beans. There's some pasta sauce, coconut milk, other things. I mean, presumably you would have a little bit of time to grab a few things, but if not, there's more than enough to survive. In addition to that, there's the fridge that has some drinks in it, as well as some oil and some condiments. But obviously we would try to load that up with whatever fresh goods that we have. Also have some spices that are just kept in here all the time, as well as a few other items, tea, hot chocolate, coffee, salt and pepper. So the next thing we want to make sure we have with us is a good first aid kit, which we have here. This is a pretty big one for out in the bush, and it's got everything that a person might need. I don't have a flashlight per se, but obviously the van has a lighting system. And I also have this really great headlamp that's rechargeable. So I'm currently charging it up right here in my little charging compartment. And so that will all be ready to go. And the thing that I love about the headlamp is that it is hands-free. It says that you should have a battery-operated radio. We have the radio that is part of the van, of course. And then also up in this bucket here, I've got a radio that can be operated by battery or plugged in that we can use if we need to. The next thing are garbage bags. So in this cupboard here in the purple bag, there are a number of plastic and paper bags as well as big black garbage bags. And then under the sink here, we have some camp soap, we have Lysol wipes, we have dish detergent here behind the sink. And then we also have up at the front, some Windex and some dash cleaner, that sort of thing. And then in here, we have some moist towelettes. For clothing, all that I have in here that I keep permanently is my jacket. And then up here in my clothes compartment I keep a sweater, a pair of pants, and a t-shirt, and that's a pair of shorts that are clothes that I don't wear that often, but obviously I would add other clothes unless I had to get out in a real hurry, and these are clothes that are comfortable and warm. In addition to those clothes, I've got some towels up here, and then up in this little cubby here, I have socks, underwear, and a bathing suit. I also have some flip-flops in here. I'll throw in a pair of running shoes as well. And then in the back cupboard, which are things that I don't need to access that often, I've got a toque and some mitts. Up here, I have a toiletry kit that I sort of keep in here all the time. There's a toothbrush, toothpaste, moisturizer, shampoo, conditioner, some floss, some mouthwash, some tampons, some pads, some hair elastics. As well, I have a face cloth and a towel. There is some moisturizer, lint remover, I think there's a little sewing kit, there's sunscreen, and you can see right here is a candle, and then there's also some laundry detergent right here. Along with the candle, I've got some lighters in this little compartment here, along with various electronic stuff, cords, that sort of thing, chargers. There are dog bags here, Kleenex. There's a Yahtzee game for entertainment purposes. There's a leash down in this basket. In the back in a bucket, I have Stanley's dog food. So I don't have a sleeping bag, but I do have the bed, obviously, which has a sheet. It's got 2 duvets on it, pillows, and then there are extra blankets and sheets in that back cupboard. I mentioned the Yahtzee game before. We also have a speaker to listen to music. There are some books up here, and we do have some cards as well. Our kitchen utensils are kept in this drawer by the bed. As well, we've got some on the counter right here. In addition to that, we have all of our cooking supplies in this drawer here. So there's pots and pans, bowls, strainers, aluminum foil, plastic wrap, lighter, collapsible bowls, frying pans, anything you need for cooking. And then up here, I showed you the cupboard with all the drink supplies and the coffee maker. In here are cups and bowls and that kind of thing. And then in this one here are our plates and bowls. There's a little mini food processor. There's some paper plates. There's an ice tray. There's coasters. So we have the propane stove with 3 burners on top. This can just be removed. In addition to that, there's a butane burner in the back with some butane cartridges. So if we were to run out of propane, we would still have a way to cook. We also have the 12-volt fridge with small freezer for food storage. So we would put all our fresh stuff in there. Moving around to the back, we've got some handy items back here as well. Obviously, there's the water fill and the water tank. Over here, we've got various things that might come in handy. A shovel, an axe, a saw, lawn chairs. We've got toilet paper. Stanley's spare dog food is in here. And then down in here are our extra tools. So there's a screwdriver in there. There's various wrenches. Yeah, anything we might need for basic tools. You can see the butane cartridges. What I'm noticing, what I'm not seeing is the actual butane burner. So I'm going to have to find out where that went. Oh, also back here is our extra water tank. Hi, Stanley. Turns out the butane burner was down in the basement, so I'm just putting it into the van now. think the important thing too to remember is, as you might use some of these up in your regular camping expeditions, that you need to make sure they get replaced. So being able to track those things and keep note. So items that I'll keep by the door in a container ready to go are things that I don't want to pack around in the van, but items that I definitely would not want to leave behind. Over here on the right is my accordion file of important documents. And then in this bin here are my passport, some family jewelry and keepsakes, some external hard drives with all of my documents and photos, as well as a big scrapbook, as well as my emergency cash stash, which probably won't be staying there. I think it's so important, if you can, to keep some cash on hand. There have been times recently where we have lost cell service and internet service. When that happens, you're unable to pay with credit cards or bank cards. So keeping some cash on hand, I think, is a good practice anyways. And then the list with those items by the door are the items that I use on a daily or almost daily basis that I can't have packed up and ready to go, but that I want to make sure that I don't forget. Prescriptions, painkillers, melatonin, car keys, credit card, wallet, ID, electronics, including my laptop, phone, headphones, gimbal, mics, charging cords, toiletries and personal hygiene items, sunglasses, hat, clothes, footwear, fresh food, drinks, stash of cash, and if I do have time, I would perhaps gather in some additional sentimental trinket. So those are my lists. And I'm hoping that that is going to provide me with some peace and, just help me be a little bit more zen if, an emergency situation occurs. Because there's nothing worse than, really wondering, have I forgotten anything? And just have regrets, because things can change in an instant. And I just want to be prepared, and I want to be ready. And I think that will make for a much more enjoyable summer and a much more enjoyable evacuation experience. I believe it was Viktor Frankl that said, when everything around you is out of your control, the one thing that you can control is your response. And I think that this is a very fitting way of looking at how to deal with, the things that are happening in our world, including wildfires. So I guess my question to you is, have I missed anything on my list? What would you bring? What is important to you? Please do share in the comments. I'll leave you now with some additional footage from last year's fire. Stay safe, everyone. We've only got one take in this life. If you liked today's video or found any of it helpful or useful, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I will leave my lists in the description so that you can refer to them should they be useful for you. Take care, everyone. See you next time.
One take terror.